Well, hello everyone and welcome back. Happy Tuesday morning. Hope you had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Hope you remembered the soldiers who have sacrificed themselves in order for you and I to have the freedoms and the liberty that we do in this wonderful country. It's so difficult to imagine the sorrow in the hearts and in the lives of the families who have lost their loved ones. And we certainly need to be appreciative of the sacrifice that has been made for the rest of us. Well, my name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and this is what I call my morning musings. We are looking at the eschatology of the parables of Jesus. I have suggested to you that the parables of Jesus are paradigmatic. They lay down the foundation for understanding the eschatology of the rest of the Bible. We have examined the parable of the wheat and the tares, which can also be called the parable of the harvest. Well, Jesus said that at the end of the age, the Son of Man would come. He would send forth his angels. They would gather out of the kingdom all things that offend, first the tares, then the wheat, and that would occur again at the end of the age. We have examined the prophetic source of that, Daniel chapter 12. We have examined the concept of the end of the age. We have examined how it correlates perfectly with Matthew 24. In our last segment, we looked at 1 Corinthians 15. Notice now how Matthew chapter 13 and the parable of the wheat and the tares corresponds with the book of Revelation. This is really, really fascinating. In Revelation chapter 14, John said he saw an angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who has made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of the water." And another angel followed, saying, "Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she has made all of the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." Now, notice that we have the proclamation of the gospel, quote, into all the world, with the announcement that the judgment of Babylon, the time for that judgment of Babylon has arrived. Now notice that in verses 14 and following, one like the Son of Man, riding on the clouds of heaven, and the voice from heaven tells him, "Thrust in your sickle, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe." So the one who sat on the cloud thrust in the sickle on the earth was reaped. Another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, also having a sharp sickle, and another angel came out from the altar, who had power over the fire, and cried with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, "Thrust in the sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe." So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth, gathered the vine of the earth, and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. You see what we have here? We have in graphic detail the imagery of the harvest. Now, notice the correlations here. In Matthew chapter 3, John the Baptizer, speaking of Jesus, said the time of the harvest had basically arrived. He said, speaking of Jesus, that he was about to come, that the wrath was about to come. Jesus already had the winnowing fork in his hand. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus said the harvest would be at the end of the age in which he was living. In fulfillment of Daniel 12, which said that the end time harvest would be when the power of the holy people was completely shattered. In Matthew chapter 24, we have the coming of the Son of Man, the sending forth of the angels to gather together the elect, and Jesus unequivocally said it would be in his generation. And he is talking about the judgment of Jerusalem. Now in Revelation 14, we have the preaching of the gospel into all of the world, which, by the way, Jesus said prior to the fall of Jerusalem, the gospel would be preached into all of the world. Then the end would come. And in Revelation chapter 14, we have the preaching of the gospel into all the world, the announcement that the judgment of Babylon, who's Babylon? It's the city where the Lord was slain. The time had arrived, and then we have the coming of the Son of Man on the clouds of heaven and the reaping of the earth. Do you see the perfect correlation? And do you see how Matthew chapter 13 sets the stage? It's the fountain from which all of these passages speak about the impending harvest. The harvest that was to take place at the end of the old covenant age of Israel. Not at the end of time. It was to be the harvest of the old covenant kingdom, so that the old kingdom would pass away and the everlasting kingdom of Messiah that has no end would come into full bloom. Hey, thanks so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. Don't forget, got all of this and more in the 2006 Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. Also, my 32-lesson series on the parables of Jesus. Go to my website, eschatology.org, BibleProphecy.com, order one or both, say that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. Thanks again so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. And yes, we've got more. We'll see you on the flip side.